It's time for good energy, and I'm Dr. Julie, and welcome to Bodyful Day 232, where we're going to talk about allergies and the senses. Today is day one of our series on allergies and the senses, and we are going to talk about how they interact with the kinesthetic sense. But as most of you know who have been watching these videos know that I kind of hijack the first sense because it's not necessarily related to the topic, but that way I can talk about how the healing equation is important to allergies and helping you recover from allergies faster and deal with them better. So let's start with the basics. Everybody take a deep breath in and release. If you're new to Bodyful videos, this next breath is going to be a really big breath in. You're going to think about breathing and expanding into your belly, expanding into your chest, and then actually expanding into your head, and you can almost feel your sinuses expand. And when you do those three things, what happens is that inside your body, everything is kind of squished down and opened up, and your tailbone kind of tucks under just a little bit. So take a deep breath in and release. All right, so we're talking about allergies and the senses, and I want you to breathe into the very first time you experienced allergies. Now, this could be allergies in the fact that your tongue went numb, your lips swollen. It could be an anaphylactic response where you ended up in the hospital or you needed an EpiPen. It could be allergies in the sense that you had something to eat and all of a sudden your gut just kind of let go, and you know that every time you eat that now, that is what's going to happen to your gut. So go ahead and take a deep breath in and release. So my memory of allergies, the very first time I actually experienced them was when I was 18, 19, when I was 20 years old. And I was 20 years old. I was at college, at Luther College in Decorah, Iowa. Decorah, Iowa is part of the driftless region. For those of you who know a little bit about the last ice age, the glaciers came down and they scraped out a lot of what is Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, but they left a patch which is around La Crosse, Wisconsin, and Decorah, Iowa, just a little patch where they didn't actually scrape the ground. It is called the driftless region. So things weren't scraped and dirt wasn't deposited. And what's interesting about that region is because it is driftless, because it has not been scraped, there are flora and fauna there, probably more likely mold, there that doesn't exist in other regions in the Midwest. And because of that, a lot of people experience allergies when they're in La Crosse or when they're in Decorah, who don't experience, or in, I'm trying to think, maybe Dubuque too, that are not used to having allergies. And so it usually takes for me when I'm in those areas, because I've moved out and come back and move out and come back 3 different times out of the driftless region, and each time it takes me 2 years, and then that year afterwards I end up having a cold from from about September to about December. Once the snow comes, I'm fine. But it's just a runny nose, constantly clearing my sinuses, and really obnoxious. Those are, in essence, the only allergies I have, unless you consider the fact that eczema, atopic dermatitis, is really an allergy type response to the system that if you clear out certain foods, it has a tendency to improve. So what we're going to talk about today is about the healing equation in relationship to allergies. So remember that the healing equation is energy to heal equals good energy and minus stressors. And when we talk about allergies, we're talking about energy to not have to deal with allergies, energy to not have your nose drain all the time, energy to not sneeze all the time, energy to not have your eyes run or your eyes puffy. So think about any of your allergy symptoms. I'm we could think about the anaphylactic version, but this is, I don't know if I would trust good energy in to kind of clear this out. These are your basic, your seasonal allergies and your food-based allergies and your smoke or other irritant-based allergies. So, energy to not have allergy symptoms or to breathe well or to not cry, to not have swollen eyes equals good energy in minus stressors. And when we're talking about good energy into the body, we're talking about what can we give the body that we know is good healing energy for allergies. And one of the things that we can do is there is a molecule that really is kind of related to your histamine response, and that is molybdenum. If molybdenum is low, your histamine response is high. So sometimes you can eat foods that are high in molybdenum. This includes beans, oats. For a lot of herbivores, it also includes a lot of dairy. I had a whole list, but I can't recall it right now, but beans are one of them. High molybdenum foods, which would then increase your molybdenum and hopefully decrease your histamine response. So there are foods that you can add. There are other sources of good energy that you can get in, because the more your body has to deal with other forms of inflammation and stress, the worse those allergies are going to be. So again, we could talk about mind gut-brain axis. If your gut is currently working on something tough, your allergies are going to be worse. If you are currently working on skin rashes and eczema, your allergies are going to be worse. If you have a psoriasis flare-up, your allergies are going to be worse. To the extent that your body is working on something else, has additional stressors, your allergies are going to be worse. So anything that you would normally add in to reduce stress other places, vitamin C, a good amount of protein, good energy in from your senses like touch, taste, smell, sight, anything of those that we've talked about before about how to get good energy into the system, you could use those here. And of course, we've got the stressors, and stressors include histamine and obviously the allergen. The allergen, if it's seasonal allergies, it's going to be pollen, it might be mold, it might be a particular food, it might be smoke. These are all things that come in that can cause inflammation throughout the sinuses, throughout the lungs, throughout the body, and that gets your allergy response. So our goal is to kind of reduce your histamine, because histamine is good in some conditions, in some cases, especially when you're mounting a response to when you're mounting an initial immune response, histamine is good. But when histamine starts taking over in the form of allergies, then it is not good. So our goal is to reduce the histamine, reduce allergen exposure, reduce other stressors so that you have more good energy in, so that you can actually survive your seasonal allergies. So that is how we look at allergies from a healing equation perspective. And we'll talk a little bit more about good energy in the specific components and stressors related to the specific senses as we move throughout the week. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the kinesthetic sense. So remember that the kinesthetic sense is your muscle and joint placement in space, how much those muscles stretch, how much those tendons stretch, and how that information feeds back into the brain to understand where you exist in space. Now, how does the kinesthetic sense relate to allergies? Well, you have to understand that usually my first series of the week is very tangentially related. And today we're going to talk about it because allergies have a tendency to take up all sorts of other energy. So allergies will take up your vitamin C because it's an adrenal stressor, and adrenals like to take up vitamin C in order to function and create cortisol. So what happens, we talked about this before, with the kinesthetic sense is that your tendons are not going to be created as strongly as they would outside of allergy season. So what happens in the allergy season is that you might find that your bones go out of place a little bit more, that you're more likely to strain a tendon or overstretch a tendon, more likely to have shoulder issues, and related to our series on plantar fasciitis, you're more likely to have plantar fasciitis because that vitamin C is being consumed by the adrenals. So if you get plantar fasciitis while you're having allergies, this is an indicator that there is this link between the kinesthetic sense, your tendons, and allergens. Now, the other thing that can link us between allergies and the kinesthetic sense is another route through the tendons, and that is through steroids. So our other function, our other way of getting us through allergies is through steroids. And steroids will calm the global amount of inflammation, but in doing so, they consume vitamin C and make it more likely that you are going to pull or strain a tendon. So if you aren't aware of this already, if you are on steroids, really do not go out and run and push and throw yourself into a new exercise, stretch a lot, because that consumption of vitamin C is going to make it very difficult on your joints and tendons, and because of that, throw off your kinesthetic sense. Now the other, we'll talk about this with vestibular, but remember that the sinuses can get clogged, the semicircular canals can be affected, and so balance is also off. So you may find that when you are in allergy season, that your balance is a little bit off as well. That is because of the tendons and because of the additional stress going on in your brain due to the allergy response. Now, is there any way of getting good energy in through kinesthetics for those of you who are experiencing allergies? And kinesthetically, there is, it has to do with the cranial bones and the bones in the head and their relationship to the neck. It also has to do with the drainage out of the head into the neck. So one of the things that you can do kinesthetically that is good energy in is you can work on kind of encouraging drainage down the neck by rubbing these front muscles of the neck, and also by working underneath the collarbones. So if any of this area are tender, what's going to happen is any garbage that is needing to come out and go into the body is going to stay backed up, which means that your allergies are going to basically inflame you more. You want to be able to kind of encourage flow down into the rest of the body. So kinesthetically, we want to work on muscles and joints that are connected to drainage, because your core drainage out of the head is right underneath these collarbones. And sinuses, we can work on those sinus points that we've talked on, and that is a little bit of kinesthetic sense, but we'll talk about it more with the sense of touch. Pushing on the upper sinuses and here and here. These are all good acupuncture points for the sinuses above and below the brows, inside and outside the brows, and underneath the nose. Those are all really good acupuncture points that open up the sinuses, and you can use those from a kinesthetic sense to open and release some of that issue with sinuses and allergies. All right. So I think that's enough information today. Join me here tomorrow when we jump into another sense and its relationship to allergies. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in and release. Have a great day. I'll see you here tomorrow.